5:17 a.m. The Gulf of Aden remained just dark enough to hide fatal mistakes. Out on the starboard wing of the U.S. Navy destroyer, the morning watch had settled into that heavy silence sailors know all too well. Engines humming below, radar spinning above, pitch-black water rolling endlessly beneath the hull. Then the surface radar lit up with 3 contacts, small, fast, closing. Inside the Combat Information Center, a sailor leaned in close to his screen. Bridge, CIC. New surface contacts bearing 086, 3 small craft, 12 miles out. Speed increasing. Up on the bridge, nobody moved too fast. That's the first rule. Panic just wastes oxygen. The officer of the deck raised his binoculars into the darkness. Nothing yet, just the faint gray strip of dawn and a flat horizon pretending to be totally empty. CIC, bridge, confirm course. Contacts are turning toward us. CPA decreasing. Closest point of approach. That was the phrase that made every single sailor listen harder. Fishing boats drift. Merchant vessels broadcast their position. A confused civilian answers the radio. These contacts were doing none of that. No AIS beacon, no flag, no normal navigation lights. And now they were accelerating. At 5:18, the destroyer's radar tracked 3 boats pushing through the chop in a loose fan formation. 1 center line, 2 offset. Not random, not casual. Definitely not the way fishermen move when trying to get home with a hold full of tuna. The officer of the deck issued the order, hail them. A calm voice broadcast over the bridge-to-bridge radio. Unidentified small craft. This is a United States Navy warship operating in international waters. You are approaching at high speed. Alter your course immediately. Only static crackled back. All 3 boats just kept coming. At 5:19, the range dropped under 9 nautical miles. Their wakes began showing up on the electro-optical camera feed. 3 sharp white scars slashing right across the dark water. The center craft led by several hundred yards, bouncing hard over the swells, bow high, engines screaming, on the destroyer's bridge. The captain stepped in without asking what was going on. He'd already heard enough from the speakers in the passageway. Report. 3 small craft, 0 response to hails, closing in from the east. Speed now 31 knots. The captain studied the tactical display. His expression didn't change at all. Maintain course. Log everything. Second hail. The warning was sent out again. Slower this time. Much sharper. Unidentified vessels. You are standing into danger. Turn away right now. Still nothing. At 5:20 a.m., lookouts on the starboard side finally established visual contact. 3 black shapes riding low against the water, rising and vanishing between the waves. They weren't large enough to threaten a destroyer traditionally. No missile tubes, no cannons, 0 armored hull. But small boats don't have to be massive to be deadly. They just need speed. They need surprise. And a crew reckless enough to believe a billion-dollar warship is just another easy target floating in the wrong ocean. Inside CIC, the watch team started building the picture. Bearings, speed, spacing, and formation. Every second added a data point, making the exact same argument. This wasn't innocent traffic. Felt like the Strait of Hormuz. The center boat shifted slightly north, cutting directly toward the destroyer's starboard bow. The 2 trailing boats spread wide, as if trying to split the ship's focus. That got noticed. Bridge, CIC. Contacts are maneuvering. Center boat looks like the leader. Flankers are widening their spread. The captain fired back instantly. Set security posture. Man key stations. 0 escalation without my direct order. The ship's atmosphere shifted. Sailors hustled with pure focus, boots pounding hard on steel decks. Watertight hatches banged open and shut. Security details rushed to designated zones. Lookouts glued their binoculars to the approaching vessels. Camera feeds pushed in, radios crackled. Starboard side, heavy machine gun crews locked into their spots. Hands ready, barrels aimed down. That restraint mattered. The U.S. Navy doesn't win these tense standoffs by being the loudest force out there. They win by staying totally ice cold. At 5:21, the gap hit 7 nautical miles. A lookout shouted from the bridge wing, spotting possible targets on the lead boat. Multiple guys up front, camera feeds dialed in. You could see shadows shifting on that lead vessel, crowding the bow in the cabin. One guy stood up, gripping the rail with one hand, clutching something long in the other. Too far to identify, but way too close to ignore. The captain stared at the monitor for a split second. Keep recording. That was all. Zero grand speeches, zero panic. Just 2 words. Keep recording. Because out here in the Strait of Hormuz, video rivals firepower. Every blown-off warning, every slight turn, every second of their approach was future evidence. At 5:22, the warship blasted a 3rd warning over radio and loudspeakers. Small vessels closing on U.S. Navy warship, turn around immediately. Do not continue your current approach. That lead boat did not veer. It accelerated. 33 knots, 34, 35. The hull slammed violently against the chop, soaking the guys inside with ocean spray. Those flankers maintained formation, shifting wide, clamping like jaws around the destroyer's forward quarter. Up on the bridge, the deck officer shot a glance at the captain. Distance is 5 nautical miles. The captain's voice stayed dead level. Put the helicopter crew on high alert. Below and aft, the flight deck instantly sprang to life. At 5:23, the dawn horizon brightened enough to reveal the whole picture. 3 pirate skiffs, running wide open, no flags, total radio silence, barreling straight toward a U.S. Navy warship. Deep inside the destroyer, every screen, every camera, every weapons console, and every highly trained sailor was locked on the exact same threat. The attackers still had a window to bail out. They refused. Right then, the bridge flipped the switch. This wasn't sketchy local traffic anymore. It was an active, impending strike. 5:24 local time. The ship's relaxed vibe vanished, but iron discipline held tight. Throughout the hull, the intercom system broadcast the final order in a deadpan, steady tone. Security alert! Security alert! Man all required combat stations. Nobody needed to hear that twice. Along the starboard rail, gunners slid firmly behind their heavy weapons mounts. Guns stayed pointed down, trigger fingers kept flat, eyes burned holes into the ocean. That's the stark difference between blind panic and trained procedure. 5 nautical miles out, those 3 rogue skiffs just kept on charging. The lead boat held the center line, bow hammering through the Strait of Hormuz chop, throwing spray over the men jammed behind the glass. The 2 trailing boats pushed wider, one sliding north, the other dropping south. They formed a loose triangle around the destroyer's projected path. Inside the Combat Information Center, the tactical picture snapped into focus. Bridge, CIC, lead craft 35 knots. Outer contacts holding 30 knots. CPA, still decreasing. The captain stood right behind the deck officer, studying the screen. Any response to hails? Negative. Try again. Bridge to bridge and loudspeaker. The radio call went out for a 4th time. Unidentified small craft. This is a United States Navy warship. You are approaching a protected military vessel. Alter course immediately. A second later, the exact same warning boomed across the water through the ship's speakers, rolling over the dark sea like thunder. The pirates just kept coming. At 5:25, the electro-optical camera zoomed tighter on the lead skiff. The feed shook with the ocean swells, then locked in. 4 men stood in the forward section. 2 more near the stern. 1 was crouching by a pile of gear hidden under a tarp. Sensor operator dialed in the focus. Possible ladder. Possible fuel cans. Unknown, long object up front. Those words landed hard in CIC. A ladder meant boarding. Fuel meant range. That unknown object meant nobody could relax. The captain's orders came fast. Do not assume weapons. Do not assume they are harmless. Keep recording. That was the knife edge. Every single sailor on board understood it. A wrong guess in either direction could get someone killed. Treat them too lightly, and a skiff reaches the hull. Go too aggressive, and a routine warning becomes a massive headline before sunrise. At 5:26, the destroyer spun up extra non-lethal measures. Searchlights snapped on, slashing pure white beams across the dark water. The lead skiff lit up fast. A black hull, overloaded stern, men throwing up their hands against the glare. For a split second, the boat wavered. Then it corrected course and pushed forward. Up on the bridge, a junior officer muttered under his breath, "They are really doing this." The captain heard him. "They are being recorded doing this." That was all he said. The ship's long-range cameras tracked every single move. Timestamps burned right into the feed. GPS coordinates locked onto each frame. Warnings logged. Distances logged. Course changes recorded. The Navy was not just defending a massive ship. They were building the official memory of the entire encounter, second by second. At 5:27, the portside skiff violently cut across a wave and angled inward. Outer contact changing course. Combat Center reports south boat turning toward our beam. The formation was no longer just closing the distance, it was shaping. Pirates do not attack heavy warships expecting a completely fair fight. They attack because they count on sheer confusion, hesitation, and blind spots. They rush the hull, force the crew to track a dozen threats, then strike at one weak moment. Unfortunately for them, they just picked a warship designed to track incoming missiles. Aircraft, submarines, drones, and surface contacts all at once. 3 tiny skiffs were not confusion. 3 skiffs were just Tuesday with terrible judgment. At 5:28, the weapons teams received permission to show presence. The 50 caliber mounts pivoted, not firing, not tracking the boats yet, just moving enough to send a clear message. That warning needed no translation. Turn around. But the lead skiff held firm. Next came the warship's whistle, a massive deep blast rolling over the waves, slamming into the incoming boats like a physical wall. The men on the point boat glanced up. One quickly shouted to the rest. Another pointed at the destroyer. Still dead radio silence. Down in combat information, the watch supervisor barked the updated range. Lead target 3.2 miles out. Intercept time under 4 minutes. 4 minutes feels long in the movies, but in the Strait of Hormuz, it is nothing. It takes just one bad turn, a missed order, or someone grabbing the wrong gear at the wrong second. Back on the flight deck, the MH-60R Seahawk crew scrambled fast. The rotor blades were strapped down, but that was about to change. A pilot jumped in. The sensor operator booted the cameras. Out on deck, a crewman crouched by the tie-downs, waiting for the green light. They were not launching this bird to kick off a firefight. It was launching to kill a fight before it began. At 5:29, the loudspeakers blasted another warning. Small craft, you are approaching a United States Navy warship. Change your course immediately or we will take defensive measures. This time, the northern boat dropped speed, but the lead skiff kept coming. It surged forward, crossing the starboard bow line. They were so close now Those men could look up and see a massive wall of American steel towering over the water. Maybe they figured the captain would flinch. Maybe they expected the crew to freeze up. Or maybe they were too used to hunting unarmed merchant ships that could only pray and wait. But this vessel was not a merchant ship. At 5:30, the lead boat broke 2.9 miles. The bridge fell dead silent. The combat center called it, "Lead target still inbound. We cannot rule out hostile intent." The captain checked the flight deck camera feed, then stared right back at the tactical screen. Launch the Seahawk. Outside in the wind, the heavy rotor blades started spinning. Those attackers had one last chance to bail. Instead, they hit the throttle. 5:31 local. The chopper tore off the flight deck, a massive flying threat with spinning blades. Heavy downwash hammered the stern, pounding ocean spray into mist as the MH-60R ripped into the gray morning sky. The deck crew ducked low, one arm shielding their helmets, the other waving them clear. The helicopter banked hard to starboard, nose pointed right at the skiffs. Up in the cockpit, the pilot did not need to ask for orders. They already knew the drill. Spot the boats, confirm their intent, apply maximum pressure. Do not shoot unless these pirates force our hand. Down below, the destroyer held its line. No sudden turns, no Hollywood maneuvers, just cold, calculated speed and total control. Raw, disciplined power, the kind of absolute calm that only looks easy from far away. Inside the combat center, the chopper camera feed flashed onto the main tactical screen. The picture flickered, locked in, and zoomed straight onto the point boat. 3 targets still rushing in. The lead vessel broke 2.6 miles, kicking up heavy spray as it violently smashed through the ocean chop. Those 2 flanking boats were dragging a bit, but still held an angle dangerous enough to matter. And that was exactly the point. 1 boat is just a target. 3 boats make a tactical nightmare. Attackers love overwhelming the zone because it creates fatal hesitation. The United States Navy trains to eliminate hesitation. Seahawk, you are fully cleared to set up overwatch. Keep safe separation. Record every single contact. Copy that. Establishing overwatch now. At 5:32, the chopper slashed past the destroyer's starboard side, dropping low over the Strait of Hormuz swells. Its thermal sensor swiveled under the nose, deadlocking onto the center skiff. Infrared spiked with 6 heat signatures, maybe 7. Someone was crouching low out back. Another guy hugged the front rail. The sensor operator tweaked the screen contrast. Lead vessel shows multiple bodies forward, spotting a possible boarding ladder. Got a long, cylindrical object starboard side on the bridge. The captain stood dead still. Keep it classified unknown. Keep blasting those warnings. The chopper broadcast on an open frequency. Small craft approaching Navy warship. This is a United States Navy aircraft. Alter course right now. You are risking collision. Dead silence. Just roaring outboards, rotor wash, and bad choices closing the gap fast. At 5:33, the Seahawk swung wide out to the lead skiff's port side. A calculated sweep, not reckless, but close enough to make a very real point. The crew looked straight up. One guy blocked the glare. Another aimed a finger at the chopper, then at the ship. That confirms something crucial. These guys were not lost at all. They knew exactly who was watching, but they kept pushing anyway. The Seahawk barked again. Turn away immediately. Abort your approach. Just total silence. Inside the combat room, that lead skiff kept creeping straight for the destroyer's starboard bow. Range 2.1 miles. The north skiff dragged back, lagging the tight formation. The southern skiff kept pace but flared outward, trying to fracture the ship's focus across multiple inbound targets. A petty officer at the radar tracked it. Outer contacts are splitting off. Lead craft remains the primary threat, the captain fired back. Primary threat remains lead craft. Keep your eyes glued to all three. But the Navy plays this game well. The attackers wanted to force too many variables. This destroyer was built for it. Radar mapped the angles. Cameras recorded every single move. Lookouts locked on visually. The chopper held the absolute high ground. Gunners held fire. At 5:34, the Seahawk operator punched the zoom hard. That dark tarp out back had slipped. Underneath, the lens caught plastic jugs, heavy rope, and what screamed metal grappling hook or ladder. Not guaranteed proof of an ambush alone, but combined with their speed, the dead silence and a straight-line attack, it locked up every jaw in the room. Bridge combat advises final warning if they hit the 2 nautical mile mark. The captain gave one sharp nod. Approved. The ship's massive speakers roared across the waves. Small craft, consider this your final warning. Turn away right now. The chopper blasted the exact same threat down. For the very first time, the leader hesitated. The bow jerked 3 degrees right, then snapped left, still coming. At 5:35, the helicopter made its most aggressive play yet. It cut directly ahead of the lead skiff, banking steep so those pirates could clearly see the United States Navy letters on the hull. Rotor wash chewed the water right in front of them. The message was crystal. We see you, we can end this, and you are running out of ocean. The skiff's driver looked up, then leaned his weight forward over the controls. Instead of bailing out, he pushed the throttle harder. Engines screaming, range 1.8 miles. Over on the starboard side, the destroyer's gun crews were absolutely locked in. Barrels stayed steady. Nobody fired. No one went rogue. Every sailor braced for that one order nobody wanted to hear. Up in the Seahawk, the pilot watched that lead boat surge. Lead craft accelerating. The combat center confirmed 2 seconds later. Lead contact hitting 36 knots, still closing. The entire mood on board shifted instantly. Nothing loud or visible, but every single person felt it. At this distance, the guessing games ended. This was not random traffic. Not lost fishermen, not some simple mix-up from a language barrier, weather, or terrible navigation. This was a high-speed run, charging a United States Navy warship, ignoring all air and surface warnings. At 5:36, the lead boat crossed 1.6 nautical miles. The Seahawk orbited above. The warship held course, the pirates maintained speed, and the whole standoff shrank to one brutal question. Would they finally turn around before the Navy forced their hand? Because closing this distance, this was not just harassment anymore. Just a ticking countdown, 5:37 local. That lead skiff blew right past the invisible line every sailor was watching. 1.5 nautical miles, still inbound, fast, and completely silent. Up on the bridge, the captain locked eyes on the tactical screen. That monitor did not care about fear, politics, or bravery. It only cared about geometry. A small boat moving fast, a closing angle toward the starboard bow. A Navy warship with just seconds left to solve this problem. Bridge, combat center. The voice clicked through. Lead contact holding steady at 36 knots. Closest approach under 500 yards. 500 yards without a course change. Against a vessel this massive, that might actually sound like distance. Against a boarding attempt or an explosive-loaded suicide skiff. It was breathing room measured in milliseconds. The captain issued the order. Final warning, all channels, full volume. The radio operator broadcasted first. Small craft, this is a United States Navy warship. You are approaching a protected military vessel. Change course immediately, or defensive measures will be taken against you. Then the ship's loudspeaker blasted that exact warning over the water, loud and clear. "Turn away right now." That lead boat stayed the course. At 5:38, those two trailing skiffs started splitting apart again. The northern boat slowed down, then veered outward. The southern boat swung wider, a typical Strait of Hormuz tactic, stretching the ship's attention. Inside the combat center, the radar picture tightened. Outer contacts are moving. Lead target remains primary. Southern contact is opening angle. The captain answered instantly. "Track everything. Do not lose that lead." High above the scene, the Navy Seahawk helicopter maintained its tight orbit. The sensor ball stayed locked right on that lead boat, filming faces, gear, speed, and every single ignored warning. The chopper pilot radioed in. "Lead craft is showing zero signs of compliance." That specific sentence echoed through the warship like a slamming door. Out on the starboard rail, the gunners were ready. Never eager, just ready. Things had changed. Those gun barrels shifted into clear view. The gun crews locked down clear sight lines. Observers tracked every angle and distance. No one wanted a fatal error. No one wanted to shoot, but they absolutely wouldn't let that skiff scrape their hull. At 5:39, the destroyer executed a controlled maneuver. Not a panicked swerve, not a retreat, just a calculated shift. Enough to ruin the attack geometry and block the straight path that skiff needed. Thousands of tons of Navy steel responded perfectly to the helm, violently churning white water down the ship's flanks. The lead skiff reacted too late. Its bow slammed hard over the chop, then jerked to correct course. That sudden correction told command everything. They were still steering to intercept. The captain's voice stayed ice cold. Understood. No big speech followed. No movie-style countdown. The ship didn't need one. Every defense layer was wide awake. Radar locked the track. Optics tracked the image. The Seahawk kept overwatch. Weapons held the line. At 5:40, the ship's horn blasted again, low and bone-rattling across the waves. Blinding searchlights pinned the lead boat in stark white glare. The Seahawk swept behind it. Heavy rotor wash carved the ocean surface into violently broken rings. For the first time, those attackers actually looked rattled. The guy near the bow crouched low. Another desperately gripped the rail. The driver shot a quick look back at his wingmen, clearly expecting them to be right there. They weren't. The whole formation was shattering. That northern skiff already bled off its speed. The southern skiff drifted way too far wide to offer any quick backup. What started as a coordinated ambush turned into one lonely boat, facing down a massive warship that had completely mapped its every single move. At 5:41, the lead skiff breached that 1-mile threshold. Command called it out instantly. Lead target is inside 1 nautical mile. Still approaching. The captain finally made his call. Authorize defensive posturing. Ready the warning measures. Hold fire unless directly ordered. Along the starboard edge, gun crews shifted. Every single movement was precise, highly visible, and totally final. The kind of lethal body language even guys in a bouncing speedboat completely understood. The helicopter broadcasted again, hovering right above them. Turn your vessel away immediately. We are recording you. You are creating a highly hostile situation. That lead skiff held course for 3 more seconds. 3 seconds usually means nothing. Out here, 3 seconds is history. Then the driver finally cracked. The bow snapped right, hard. Way too hard. The skiff violently slammed its own weight, throwing massive ocean spray over the crew. One guy totally lost his balance against the cabin frame. Another grabbed onto the stern tarp while heavy gear slid dangerously across the wet deck. But absolutely nobody on the destroyer cheered. There just wasn't time. Lead contact is turning away. Command reported their speed dropping. Course is widening. Maintain track, the captain ordered, because a single turn wasn't an automatic surrender. One turn was literally just one turn. At 5:42, the northern boat followed suit, killing its speed and peeling away from the warship. The southern skiff hesitated before bailing out too, its white wake carving wide across the gray ocean. The trap had officially failed. Not because pirates operating in the Strait of Hormuz suddenly found common sense, but because the U.S. Navy choked off every single option. No blind spots, no hesitation, no easy target, no panic, just a lethal American destroyer. One chopper, a locked-in crew, and a tightening circle of consequences. At 5:43, the lead skiff broke off. Range was widening. Speed tanked below 20 knots. The captain studied the radar track a second longer. Keep the Seahawk tracking them. Prep boarding team. The pirates peeled away from the hull, but they were not walking away clean. Not after that aggressive run. Not after those warnings. Not after pushing a United States Navy warship to the absolute brink. The imminent threat was cracking, but this mission was far from over. 5:44 local time. The ocean stayed rough. Only the pirates backed down. The lead boat veered off the starboard bow, dumping speed while the driver fought the heavy wake he had just churned up. The two outer boats were actively peeling off right behind him. The formation was gone. The rush was over. Courage vanished. Just 3 trapped boats in the Strait of Hormuz facing a Navy warship. High above, the MH-60R Seahawk kept orbiting. The camera never blinked. Down inside the Combat Information Center, the radar track stayed hot. Nobody called off the threat just because those engines turned. Out on the water, retreats can be genuine, or just deadly bait. Bridge, CIC. Lead contact widening range, 18 knots. Outer contacts scattering. The captain stared at the glowing screen. Maintain overwatch. Prep the RHIB team. That order shifted this warship's gears. The threat shifted from a full-on collision to a tactical interception. The pirates gambled on raw speed. Now they were facing cold procedure. Over on the starboard side, sailors rigged the inflatable boarding boat. The strike team moved with ruthless efficiency. Helmets, heavy armor, comms, medical, restraints, and cameras. Zero wasted movement, no cheering, no big speeches. This wasn't about revenge. This was total control. At 5:46, the warship barked another radio command. Small craft, kill your engines. Stay completely visible. Keep hands where we can see them. The lead skiff dragged. A few agonizing seconds passed. Then the outboard motor choked into idle. The north boat complied, but the southern skiff drifted dangerously wide, like they were still weighing one final, fatal mistake. The hovering Seahawk made sure they didn't. The chopper aggressively shifted, cutting across the southern boat's path, kept enough distance for safety, but enough muscle to make the threat crystal clear. Do not. At 5:47, the southern skiff finally throttled back. Down in CIC, the watch marked all 3 contacts compliant. Not secure, though. That detail matters. Compliant just meant they killed the gas. Secure meant they couldn't pull a lethal surprise anymore. They weren't secure yet. At 5:48, the RHIB hit the water. The tactical boat smacked the waves hard, bounced once, and tore forward under heavy throttle. 2 sailors locked down the bow and stern arcs. The boarding officer crouched low, dead, focused on the lead skiff. The driver sliced through the chop, moving fast enough to dominate the approach, slow enough to keep absolute situational awareness. From high up, the Seahawk monitored the tactical geometry. From the destroyer's deck, heavy optics watched their hands. From the RHIB, The boarding crew studied their faces. 3 deadly layers, 1 problem. At 5:50, they pulled alongside the lead skiff. Hands visible, do not move. The pirates complied, dead slow. 6 guys aboard, drenched in sweat, dead silent. Young enough to look rattled, old enough to know exactly what they did. One guy kept staring at the massive destroyer shadowing the RHIB, like the sheer scale of his blunder finally just clicked. The boarding team swung aboard, fast, controlled, purely professional. The first guy was pulled from the pilot, the second was yanked away from the stern. The rest were ordered to sit right in plain sight. Every single movement was recorded. Nothing was touched until cameras flashed. At 5:52, the search kicked off. Beneath a tarp, the crew uncovered plastic gas cans, heavy rope, steel hooks, and a folding ladder. Nothing too dramatic on its own, but together, it painted a clear picture. These guys weren't fishing. They were rushing a warship with gear designed for a hostile takeover. See, that is the reality of piracy. It never flies a black flag or announces itself. It hits with speed, dead silence, and gear that only makes sense up close. At 5:55, the second RHIB pushed toward the northern skiff. The Seahawk hovered over the southern boat until every single suspect sat dead still. One by one, the skiffs were cleared, photographed, and completely locked down. 0 shots fired, 0 American casualties, not a single scratch on the warship. And not one pirate got close enough to even touch the hull. Inside the destroyer's CIC, the room stayed quiet. Adrenaline was still pumping, but buried under the grind. Logs needed filling out. Footage needed preserving. Coordinates demanded verification. Timestamps had to perfectly match the radio calls. The line between a flawless op and a disaster is paperwork nobody ever sees. The U.S. Navy sees it. That is exactly why the system holds up. At 5:58, the captain got word. Boarding team confirmed suspected piracy gear recovered. Suspects detained. 0 casualties. He gave a single nod. Keep documenting. Keep that chopper overhead until every single boat is secure. Outside, dawn finally broke crisp across the Gulf of Aden. The destroyer's gray hull sliced the water like absolutely nothing went down. But something did. 3 pirate skiffs had just rushed a massive American warship, full throttle. They ignored warnings, tried a Strait of Hormuz-style distraction, and breached the danger zone. They banked on hesitation. They found radar lock. They expected panic. They met cold procedure. They banked on a soft target. They got American steel, a hovering Seahawk, and a crew knowing exactly where restraint ends and lethal force begins. By 6:10, the skiffs were secured. The detained men were processed, every single piece of evidence documented. The massive destroyer resumed course. No victory music, 0 shouting, no Hollywood finish. Just another log entry and 3 pirate boats that wouldn't be rushing anyone again today. So here is the real question. If you stood right on that bridge, watching 3 pirate boats charging at full throttle, do you hold fire until the absolute last second, or hit back the instant they ignore your first warning? Drop your take in the comments. See, those pirates rushed in assuming speed equaled raw power. The U.S. Navy reminded them that real power is built entirely on discipline. Sensors and aircraft, the Strait of Hormuz, steel, all moving at once.